The Ahsoka series is now just a little over 3 months away, and a lot of Star Wars fans are anticipating that show the most out of every single past Star Wars project, I think for 2 reasons. Number 1, Kathleen Kennedy had zero involvement in this project, both during the writing of the script as well as principal photography, and number 2, Dave Filoni wrote every single episode, strictly. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into exactly what's been going on with the whole plan by John and Dave to rearrange the timeline of the Skywalker Saga, what Dave Filoni had to say about this, and exactly where it's all going to lead into creating live-action adaptations of the famous legend stories that George Lucas approved well over 25 years ago. So when we look at stuff like this, we know that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are working around the clock. I mean, these are guys that are really dedicating their hard, work and time into really bringing Star Wars back to its own, way of really kind of reuniting the fan base and staying in touch with the fans' expectations. So, moving on to exactly what's really going on here and what Dave Filoni had to say about Star Wars Legends and the resetting of the Skywalker Saga. Currently, D23 will be the destination of a large slate of Star Wars show announcements that will be unveiled to the public this September. However, in a recent interview, that Dave Filoni got involved in, he went on to tease more plans about resetting the Skywalker Saga, and how this is going to be used as a tool to bring in many legend stories. Filoni stated the following: "As John said earlier to everybody, that we have this ambition of ours to really recreate a majority of the legend stories and its surrounding characters. But the question was, how do we get past that barrier with the sequel trilogy lore and canon that's a part of those films? It was really interfering with the stories that we wanted to tell with Luke or those with Thrawn and such, and so we both got together and came up with those well-calculated strategies on how we can actually sort out to do this reset or a rearrangement of the timeline, if you will, in the Skywalker Saga, It's our call and something that we need to be extremely careful with, but we are going to start doing this in the second season of Ahsoka that we are actively brainstorming right now." So, one thing that Dave Filoni is pointing out here, before I get to the next piece that Dave Filoni talks about, is that he is putting it out there that there is this reset or rearrangement of the Skywalker Saga timeline that is currently in the works, so that they can tell the stories that they've always wanted to tell about Star Wars Legends. These are stories, by the way, that are ranging from, anything from the Thrawn trilogy books, to the New Jedi Order, to Shadows of the Empire. There's so many Legends lore out there that I think a lot of you guys should really invest your time in the Legends Essentials books. These are books that were hand-picked by Disney that they believe are the most popular ones out there, and they kind of rebranded them. But overall, Dave Filoni is putting it out there that this is happening. It is a thing that is being, conversed between both himself and John almost every single day about how they needed to do this to really break the walls of what the sequel trilogy canon was kind of preventing them from doing. And a lot of this, by the way, has a lot to do with, he's going to elaborate on this, a lot of this has to do with the stories of Luke in between episodes 6 and 7. And, how those stories are going to really impact the sequel trilogy lore, essentially. So, he goes on to state further, what's great about this is that this gives us more opportunities to explore some of the adventures of Luke that were done in Legends as well as Thrawn and other Legends stories. We felt that making these changes that would impact the sequel stories were necessary for us to expand the other Legends tales that fans grew up with, that I grew up with, and even those that George had approved all those years ago. Again, Dave Filoni pointing out here that this gives them the chance to tell the Luke stories that they've always wanted to. Again, I think he's also alluding to that project that we've been talking about that's been in the early development phase for a while now. It's called Star Wars Jedi Knight. It's going to be an anthology show focusing not just on Luke, but also his surrounding next generation of Jedi, or Jedi students, on both Ossus and Yavin 4. We've actually, talked about that very lightly before in the past, so it's interesting to say the least, because Dave Filoni is putting it out there that this is a thing that's happening. This is something that they want to gear towards. And he also said that they did something similar with the plans for Mando Season 4, of how that show in isolation is also getting a little bit of a reset, or, a restart, if you will, right from the scratch, to really kind of just do something different, not really pick up where Mando Season 3 left off per se, but to kind of just bring things back to bare bones and basics. So, in conjunction, alright, with that, there's a lot of things going on. He goes on to conclude, those are the moments that we really want to show to old fans and newcomers alike. He's referring to the Luke stories. To really properly expand the core spirit of Star Wars and what all those books and comics were able to provide to readers that just loved investing themselves in the events after Return of the Jedi. Now, separate from what Filoni stated, this all alludes to current plans of Luke and Mara Jade's story being a big focus, and how it will spill into sequel trilogy lore later on. Again, we know that John and Dave have had this thing going on for a very long time now to mark Karen Gillan, alright, actress Karen Gillan, to portray Mara Jade in Mando Season 4, Ahsoka Season 2, for starters, to really kind of kickstart this reset of the Skywalker Saga, alright? And basically what this means is, if you have Luke and Mara getting involved in a relationship, or becoming husband and wife and having a child, we know that John and Dave are trying to make that happen via the family tree book. We've talked about this. It's going to release next year, showcasing revised family trees, and in there, it features the Skywalker family tree that's actually involving Mara Jade and Luke, with the extension of another Skywalker beneath them, hence the son of Skywalker, essentially. So there's a lot of thought going into this, and whether or not to them it's going to be a little, overboard or too much for the audience, I don't think so. You got to really pre-plan this is all. It's got to be very well executed. It can't come across as cheap or, too quickly put together. You have to make sure that this is going to really fit the overall style of what they've been aiming for when it comes to the extended universe. So it is going to be a challenge, there's no doubt about this. It will be a very big task for both John and Dave to handle. It's just all a matter of exactly how, well it's going to be executed, and exactly how much time they're going to spend on this. Now, we know that John talked about this the other day, that Mando 4's script is already being revised after getting the feedback from Mando Season 3. Will this create a delay in Mando 4 from 24 to 25? Who knows? There's really no telltale about that just yet, but there are revisions taking place on the script right now. So, overall, guys, I'm really intrigued to hear what all of you have to say about this entire scenario and strategy, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again. No.